Hi guys, my name is Felix, and I did a little bit of research on synesthesia for my senior thesis project this year, and I wanted to share it with you guys. So here it is. Synesthesia is a complex neurological phenomenon in which one's senses are extra connected. For many, our senses are automatically linked. Think of when you smell something so disgusting that you can practically taste it. But for synesthetes, or people with synesthesia, it's multiplied by 10. Keep in mind that much like autism, synesthesia is a spectrum, and most people experience symptoms of synesthesia in a neurotypical way. Synesthesia's term is only used when someone is on the heavy end of the spectrum, especially if it impacts their daily lives. There are two subsets of synesthesia, projective and associative. Projective synesthetes will, for example, hear a sound and see or visualize the response, whereas associative synesthetes will feel the response. Like hearing the guitar and visualizing red versus hearing the guitar and feeling like it's red. Personally, I'm an associative synesthete, and it's quite difficult to explain the feeling. Think of it as a gut feeling or a first instinct. It just feels that way. Common types of synesthesia include the following. Grapheme color synesthesia is the most commonly known and experienced synesthesia type. This is usually in reference to concepts, such as numbers and letters being associated with colors. It's important to note that throughout studies, there are occasional similarities between grapheme color synesthetes' interpretations of characters, with A being commonly read. I believe this is from the media we see, such as the classic building blocks with a red A, blue B, and yellow C. This is also prevalent in how some people may remember childhood, like how most students in my school had assigned colors to their classes. Personally, I always believed math is red and blue, social studies is orange and brown, literacy was green and yellow, and science was black and purple. Also notable is the brain trick of spelling a color in another color text. For me, it's hard to even look at this because it hurts my brain and I can't really grasp why it's so wrong. Auditory tactile synesthesia is when sounds evoke tactile sensations. Certain sounds or music can cause physical sensations like shivers, tingles, and pain. Autonomous sensory meridian response, or ASMR, is compared to auditory tactile quite a bit, as it essentially causes the same response. Most of the ASMR community uses synesthetic words and descriptions like tingles. ASMR, simplified a lot, boils down to spontaneous sensory climax triggered by external factors. A music artist named Galen Tipton is a perfect example of this, as he uses bubbly, crunchy, ASMR-like sounds. Chromesthesia is when you associate colors to sounds. People with chromesthesia sometimes have perfect pitch, since they can visually see the colors that they relate to the notes, and use that to identify each one. Kinesthetic synesthesia is similar to auditory tactile, but instead of just audio, physical sensations come from other things as well, such as the aforementioned letters and numbers, objects, or other concepts. Kinesthetic synesthesia is described as an intricate system of relationships. Lexical gustatory synesthesia is another rare type, with only 0.2% of synesthetes having it. This type of synesthesia causes the synesthete to smell words. The documentary Derek Tastes of Earwax is about a pub owner, James Winnerton, who tasted earwax whenever he heard the name, Derek. Mirror touch synesthesia is when a person can feel the touch just by seeing another person be touched. People with mirror touch have been observed as more empathetic, and mirror touch is rumored to be influenced by the empathetic part of your brain. Misophonia is not often known as a synesthetic term, but it is. Misophonia synesthetes associate negative physical sensations to certain words, most commonly unsteady chills when hearing noises like chewing. Number form is a mental map of numbers, with synesthetes being able to reach into that mind map to solve math problems. Ordinal linguistic personification, or OLP, is when concepts are given personal aspects or personified. I used to, as a trans man, be drawn to 2 and 9, both numbers that were trans in my mind, since they differentiated from my usual rule of even numbers being girls and odd numbers being boys. Spatial sequence synesthesia, SSS, is when the synesthete can visualize answers or memories on a spatial mental map, similar to number form. People with SSS have a better memory and are able to recall events in much greater detail than non-synesthete subjects in most cases. Subtitle synesthesia, more commonly known as ticker tape, is when people can visualize words when they are heard, kind of like your own subtitles, hence the name. It was originally called ticker tape as some people saw the words written on sheets of paper mentally. These are only some of the types, as it is believed there are over 80 types of synesthesia. The first coining of the term we know of was in 1812 in the case study of George Tobias Ludwig Sachs. In 1872, Ralph Waldo Emerson's 8-year-old daughter, Ellen, would amuse the children at school by mentioning colored words, as wrote by a family friend Thoreau. However, synesthesia was prevalent all the way back in ancient Greece. In fact, some theorists in ancient Greece suspected the timbre or tone, color, or quality was a true quality of sound. Additionally, things like the chromatic scale include root words usually relating to color. Music words, such as harmony and tone, became parts of the visual arts vocabulary as well. This is why synesthesia was originally described as colored hearing. Some people believe that ancient folk saw synesthesia as a gift brought through divinity and sometimes even celestial bodies. This is why synesthesia was seemingly so important to them. Greeks had a very limited vocabulary for colors, which has led some to believe that they couldn't see in all the colors we see now. However, many researchers state that the case isn't a matter of seeing less colors, but more a matter of limited linguistics and how the culture perceived those colors, such as yellow and green being colors of nature's animals, and so on. A study was conducted with a man who was both a synesthete and colorblind. Even though he had never seen these colors visually, he was able to distinguish them within his mind and attribute colors he typically couldn't see to certain ideas or objects. He called the colors he could only see internally Martian colors, since he didn't know the names of them. Many synesthete artists incorporate different aspects of their personal view of the world through synesthesia, just as normal artists do so without. Simply, synesthetes see the world through crystallized lenses and across associate sensory information. Yes, there's lots of room for artistic creativity and expression, but a lot of things about living with synesthesia can be difficult for the synesthetes, especially if they have neurodivergencies like autism. Overstimulation is already an issue for neurotypicals and for neurodivergents, and synesthesia can multiply it even more. Like, when you can feel your sock in your shoe and it's causing discomfort. Imagine you could smell it and hear a noise and taste it. It spreads even more overstimulation across the senses. A lot of thought goes into things as a synesthete, sometimes much more so than the average person. My dad, also a synesthete, expressed to me that he visualizes times of the day in colors, so when he was choosing pill carriers, he chose color based off the time of day he took the pill. Sometimes this can even cause subconscious decision-making, like when he takes my pink pill carrier because that's the morning color to him and ends up taking my pills instead. This can even cause some closed-mindedness and dismissal of other opinions on synesthetes' behalfs. Some people refuse service if their decaf comes in a brown pot instead of an orange one. I used to fight over the folder colors in school to the point of losing friendships. However, not being able to understand another person's point of view is not the same as not being able to respect it and accept it. I believe people in general could use a lesson on respecting others' views, but that's a topic for another day. Synesthesia is also quite influential in the media, as plenty of musicians, artists, and writers are also synesthetic. Marina and the Diamonds, one of my favorite artists, claims she has synesthesia that influences her music. Other synesthetic musicians include Brendan Urie, Billie Eilish, Pharrell Williams, Mickey Hart of the Grateful Dead, and Kanye West. Some say that The Fall of the House of Usher by Edgar Allan Poe is a story of synesthesia, where Roderick goes insane from his belief that the house was alive due to the sounds of Madeline's clawing of the tomb. Being synesthetic is sometimes a challenge, but at the same time, it's fascinating to see how the mind is able to transform a simple sight into so many sensory bursts. I wouldn't call it a miracle, but it surely is a different perspective.